Hello once again, and once again I have three rums in front of me, all of them from the distillery of Savanna. Savanna is a distillery on the island of Réunion in the Indian Ocean, just to the east of Madagascar. And it was founded in 1870 as part of the drive by France to diversify sugar production after the loss of Saint-Domingue, which is, of course, now Haiti, and Ile-de-France, which is Mauritius, in the early 1800s. Now, distilleries had already appeared on Réunion by 1815, but records suggest that primitive versions of those distilleries, attached to sugar factories and so on, were making stuff for themselves, were probably in existence for at least 100 years before that. Now, interestingly enough, rum production had begun to take on greater importance as diversification measures started to take root in 1865, which is when the beet sugar crisis started to become a thing. And that was, of course, when the discovery that sugar beets were able to make sugar in Europe started to decimate the sugar industry of the Caribbean and the tropical islands. And this sugar crisis also had the effect, of course, as is usual in these times of economic privation, of requiring consolidation and closures of the various estates. Now, in 1830, I've read that there were like 189 sugar estates. By 1914, these were reduced to 20. And by now, of course, as I've mentioned before, there are only three. I will just repeat the names. It's Rivière du Mat, Issotier, and Savanna. There's all sorts of history that I've got on my website about the place, so I'm not going to go into it in very great detail. But the man most associated with Savanna in its current iteration was an islander named Émile Huguet, who lived between 1904 and 1993, who was an engineer. And he did train as a chemist in the sugar factories of the French mainland at Artres and Boussy-les-Longues. But he basically went into Réunion and he started to reorganize just about everything. And in the post-war years, especially, he restructured the entire sugar-based economy of the island and merged factories and properties, La Mare, Savanna, and Grand Bois, and the properties La Convenance and Le Perron. And he formed the Bourbon Sugar Company in 1948, to which he added the assets of another sugar estate called Stella in 1952. Now, the thing is, Savanna remained as a separate distillery under this umbrella, and although there were some rums issued as Rum Bourbon by the parent company, the operation as a whole didn't really do its own kind of branding, and it just supplied, bulk alcohol to the mainland, and they basically shipped everything off to be used as blends by other companies. But in 1992, the location of the Savanna distillery changed to the northeast of the island, where it stays now, close to a sugar factory of the same name. And the aging cellars followed that. In 1995, it continued to do so, and it expanded even further in 1999. By now, by, let's say, the early 2010s, it was completely integrated from the cane fields to the final bottling, all of it taking place in that place, and they still continue to export bulk rum. So right now, the distillery does run with a continuous still, which was put into place around 1964, but they do also have an alembic, or pot still, which is used to produce their high ester marks. I could go on further, but I'm not really going to go into that. The point of the matter is that it's within the last 10 years or so that Savanna really started to make a splash. And for me, that came when they issued the 2006 10-year-old high ester rum of Réunion, HERR, which really just blew my mind at the time. So, as of now, the company, although it once was a company that they had a parent company that basically owned more than one distillery. At this point in time, there is a consortium that was founded in 2012 to acquire the Savanna Distillery from COFEP, which was a conglomerate that owned Rivière du Mat as well. And then they were ordered to sell Savanna to a separate one by antitrust regulators, which is actually a good thing because you don't want to have one company running all the distilleries on the island. That would just be problematic. But be that as it may, we now have three rums in front of us, and all of them are very, very interesting. And I'm going to go through them one at a time just to tell you what they are. The first one, that's this one here, nice colored label. The box is pretty much the same. And this is called the Eternal Summer. It actually hasn't been released yet. It will come out in 2026, later this year, which is to say, and it's bottled at 59.2%, which is really kind of cool. And what it is, it's a blended rum. It's got two kinds of rum within it. It's got the Traditionnel, which is to say from molasses, that was done in 2016 and it's 6 years old. And then there's also a component of the HERR 2009 8-year-old. So that's the Hiesta still, the alembic that made it. And then they were blended in the barrel and aged for a little bit more. But the thing is, it doesn't actually say how long. By normal standards, we would say this is a 6-year-old, but trust me, it is a little bit older than that. We just don't know precisely how much. I would say 10 years is the absolute maximum and 6 years is the absolute minimum. So, we can take that as we have it. It is fairly strong, of course, closing in on 60%. There's 584 bottles of this thing, which suggests that there was possibly 2 barrels, one of each, that were consolidated, and then evaporation took the rest. But what was interesting about it, this is actually not released, or will not be released, by Savanna directly, because it was made for the Colors of Rum, which is this Polish outfit that is making big waves all over Europe in the rum festivals, particularly because of its really approachable and friendly brand ambassadors, Dominic and Magda in particular, but I know there are others, and I just want to give them a shout out. Hi, guys. And it is for them. And I think Magda was the one who picked the barrels that made this, so she's actually mentioned on the label there somewhere. All right, the second one, that's this one here. This is it actually has a fairly straightforward name. It's simply called Savanna Rum Traditionnel Hors de la Réunion, 51%. And it's part of a collection called the Very Rare Casks. I haven't seen too many of these, but they do exist. And it is the oldest rum from Savanna that I have yet seen. It's a 2001 17-year-old Savanna rum, French oak, ex-cognac the entire way. And it is from a single cask, a number 587, which released 300 bottles. And the last one, this one, and there isn't actually very much left in the bottle. I may just have taken most of it, and I've been drinking it all day because I think it's just a really kind of cool rum. This is the Savanna Edition Blanc Paris, HERR 59.4%. So this is completely from the Hiesta still, the alembic that they have. And it is sort of like a rum that was ordered. It is a single barrel, but it was ordered by a combination of 2 organizations or companies or whatever. One of them is the Restaurant Blanc in Paris, and the other one is the Tokyo-based Bar Lamp Bar. And like before you ask, like what's the connection between these two? I did hear an unconfirmed story that the chef of the restaurant in Paris is from Japan and knows somebody at the bar. So maybe there's some co-ownership going on there, or at least there's a connection there, and it's as good a story as any, so we can go with that. The stats of it, it's a 2009 8-year-old high ester, 11 days fermentation, 8 years aging, and I think it's just 1 barrel, but it doesn't actually say that. Right, so I'm just going to put these away for a second, just off to the side. Put them here. So I've had these on the go, these glasses on the go now for pretty much the entire day, because I did find them fascinating. And these Hiesta rums, you really got to pay attention to them once they've started to be aged. You'll notice that none of them are actually made from cane juice, which some people seem to think that Savanna does make. And they do sometimes, but not a whole lot. They do mostly Traditionnel and blends and all kinds of other stuff. Right, so the first one, which is the Colors of Rum edition, or this Eternal Summer, as they call it, which is really kind of fragrantly named, is really quite an interesting rum by itself. 59.2%, boy, that's really going to tell you something, isn't it? The nose is really kind of nice. It's very, very firm, very strong, very pungent, and it's mostly salted caramel, vanilla ice cream. There's a certain sweetness to it, an almost delicate note of sugar water, but mostly it's acetones, cherries, strawberries, flavored yogurt, flambéed bananas, that kind of thing, perhaps stewed apples. There's a bit of crispness to it that comes from the Hiesta part, which leads me to wonder exactly what the percentages of each are. But let's leave it for that for the moment. It is a little bit citrusy, but what you're left with is the ester part is certainly taking front, but there is also a bit from all that aging. So you're going to get vanilla and some caramel and some brown sugar and spices and so on. Yeah, that's really quite a nice nose on this one. So nothing wrong to say about any of it. The second one that we've got here is the 17-year-old 51% from the Very Rare Casks collection. Wow, this one, I remember this so well now, and it gets even better after I've let the glasses stand for about an hour. This is an impressive little dram. I mean, wow, it is bitingly crisp. I mean, it's citrus forward all the way. And it isn't from the HERR still, it's just from the standard column still that they have there. So it's got honey, wax, glue, the scent of Yeah, there's got that scent of new leather purses of the type that Mrs. Kano likes to buy. You know, cinnamon is there, breakfast spices, and there's also some sort of, it reminds me of getting into a brand new car. That combination of fresh plastic and old leather kind of coming together there, and this just deepens over time. And then you start to get soya, ginger, and some breakfast spices, and some sweet balsamic vinegar. I mean, it really is a very nice nose, and so far I've really liked this one. Okay, so what's the last one like? Now, the last one is, of course, the one that is made for the restaurant and the bar between Tokyo and Paris, and it's all from the HERR, and it's all 59.4%. Strawberries, bubblegum. I mean, that's almost like a signature, right? Pineapple rinds that have been left in the sun for too long. It is Grand Arome stuff, which is, of course, the style that they're going with. It's got all of the crisp, sharp notes that you would associate with either the Foursquare LFT or some of the really high funky, high ester notes from Jamaica. It also reminds me a little bit of that ultra high ester Mohoba that Habitation Velia issued not too long ago. It's really, really nice. Wow. The nice thing is, though, because it's been aged for 8 years, remember when you tried the Hogo Monster from Plantere? It was just like, fuck, it was esters all the way. It was just like biting you. It's sharp and nasty, but, it had its points for sure. And I'm going to review that sooner or later because I'm still trying to make up my mind about it. But the thing is, it was crisp and it was sharp and it was thin and it was scratchy and bitchy and so on. This has nothing of the sort. So my kind of takeaway from this is that if you're going to make a high ester rum and, really torque this stuff up, then I think you've got to age it a little bit too, just to give it a little bit more balance. Otherwise, it's all sharp, fruity notes and nothing else. Here, we've got a little bit of caramel, a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of toffee. There's some sour yogurt, a little bit of kimchi going on there. It's nice. It really is quite good. So let's try to taste them now, one after the other. The balance here is really quite good, which is to say that the nose is in harmony with the palate. Pretty much what you're getting in the nose, you also get in the palate. There's no going off the reservation here, right? The strawberries, the caramels, the flavored yogurt, the flambé bananas, all of that is really good. It's sweet. Again, there's that sugar water, pears, pineapples, and so on. So you're getting a little bit of the HERR, and you get a little bit of the standard, barrel age that came from the Traditionnel, the 6-year-old. But yeah, the HERR really does take front on this one, and that's not bad at all. I think Magda chose a really good barrel there. The other one now is a little bit different. This is now the one that is 17 years old, French oak, ex-cognac, and so on. So you're going to get some winey notes, of course. I tried those before. Yeah, it's a bit dusty. Yeah, it's a little bit dusty. You've got a bit of pineapple. It's not a whole lot. Caramel, vanilla, breakfast spices, cinnamon, ginger. Again, there's that leather and smoky kind of thing, which is really nice. After 17-year-old, you're not going to get much of the original terroir coming through here, any kind of grassy notes or any kind of molasses notes for sure. You're going to get mostly vanilla and caramel and that kind of thing, and that's definitely here. You're also getting a little bit of the bite of the tannins that come from the barrel, and the cognac makes itself felt because you do get grapes and raisins and a little bit of a winey background there. But what I like is the sort of like the Asian influence, if you will. So there's some soya, there's some ginger, there's some sweet balsamic vinegar with flowers underneath all of that, and there's a little bit of cucumber that's been soaked in vinegar with a pimento or two for kick in there. It's got a little bit of bite to it, which is really kind of cool, right? The Blanc Paris, which is, again, I repeat, at 59.4%, is also quite interesting. So again, this is the one that's completely high ester. So again, what you get on the nose, you're going to get on the palate for sure. Yeah. Pineapples, strawberries, bubblegum. That's the first one. Put that out of the way. You kind of expect to see that. There's a little bit of orange peel. There's some citrus stuff in there. Somewhere around the midpoint, it begins to mellow out a bit and gets a little bit softer. The aging certainly takes its place here. Remember, this is an 8-year-old, so it does sort of come together in a really nice synthesis. Yeah, the Grand Arome part is definitely there, and you can't ever get past that. The sharpness and the citrusy part, the acetones, the glue, the plastic, the sharper side of things, continues to make itself felt really well, but that doesn't invalidate it as a rum at all. I think all three of these are really quite impressive in their own quiet way. The question is, when you have three of them and they kind of all have bits and pieces that are similar, while each one has a bit and piece that's different, you got to ask yourself, well, which one is the best? Which I think is what a lot of people are going to ask as soon as they see three bottles in front of me, right? I'd have to say that on balance, I'd have to say that the Blanc Paris HERR is just a little bit too much of a good thing. I would score this just about 83, 84 points. And they're all very close to each other. But the second one in my estimation is this one, the Colors of Rum edition of the Eternal Summer kind of thing. It's got a really nice set of taste. It's got a good balance between the high ester still and the aged component and so on. But I would score it about 84, perhaps 85 points, something in that in that range. But truth to tell, the one I really, really like is the 17-year-old. I mean, this 17-year-old really does show that you can take rums that have come from a column still, you can age them well if you've done them correctly. It comes up with something with such a plethora of notes and tastes and aromas and a finish that just goes on for quite a while. Remember, these are all fairly strong rums, between 50 and 60%, right? But somehow this one just makes it for me. And I would definitely give this about 87, 88 points because it really is that good. It's a short way of going through three rums all at the same time without writing three reviews, which I'm going to have to do. But I'm going to give you a single video for all three so that just you can see what's going on here. I just would recommend it. If you haven't tried Savanna before, don't get fooled by the fact that it's from Réunion. People seem to think that Réunion, because it's part of the AOC, makes nothing but agricole-style rums, or agricole rums, as they're allowed to be called. Not really true. They do a combination of all of them, and they have names like Lontan and Creole and Traditionnel that are used on their labels to kind of identify which is which. But the important thing to realize is that the island does play all sides. It makes rums from everything. And to its credit, it has found a way over the decades to come up with rums that really do taste interesting. And the best part about it is there's so many of them, right? I despair of ever listing them all because they do collaborations and they do special editions, just like Foursquare did for some of the shops up in Canada and the United States and so on. So they're open to that kind of thing. You can always get a barrel from what I've been told. And frankly, I think we see quite a lot of these, but each one has a point of distinctiveness and difference for each and every one of them. And they're always worth a try, to my mind. And there are some that are put out at about 40, 42% and so on. But for my money, anything about between 50 and 60 is definitely worth looking at. At least try to taste it and see what your opinion on the matter is, because they really are quite good. I'm going to leave it here. I've got a few more of these to do, so I have to get started on those. Bit of a memory exercise, really. But yeah, no, these are great. And look forward to the next time. And I will see you all again later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.